Bucknutters, welcome to the Morning 5 on Wednesday, November 12th, 2014. I am Dave Biddle, and I'm joined by the People's Champ, Matt Baxendale. The college football playoff rankings were announced last night, and Ohio State vaulted from 14th to 8th as expected. The one-loss teams ahead of the Buckeyes are number 2 Oregon, number 4 TCU, number 5 Alabama, number 6 Arizona State, and number 7 Baylor. Bax, obviously the Buckeyes need a little bit of help from the outside, but I continue to think if they take care of business and finish 12-1, they will sneak in the playoffs. Again, they do need some help, and I get that. For instance, the Miami Hurricanes beating number 3 Florida State this Saturday would be huge. And Florida State is only favored by 1.5 points in that one. I think a one-loss Ohio State team would end up going over a one-loss Florida State team. So get ready to root for U this weekend, Buckeye fans. I also think there's a chance the Pac-12 champ will end up with 2 losses, and that would open the way for a 12-1 Ohio State team to get in. Bax, what are your thoughts here?
Well, first of all, I think the committee gave Ohio State a little bit of a gift by ranking Minnesota this week 25th. They talked a lot yesterday on the announcement show when Jeff Long was interviewed about how this team has more top 25 wins than that team. Hey, Buckeyes win at Minnesota, and they go into the conference championship game and win that one. That's 3 top 25 wins in their last 5 games, according to the committee's own rankings. So it's a pretty powerful incentive down the line for the Buckeyes towards the end of the season. I agree with you, too, by the way. If this team wins out, goes 12-1, especially if they beat a Nebraska team that is sitting there at 11-1 in the Big Ten championship game, and at that point is ranked in the top 10 as well, it's going to be very hard to imagine this team not getting into the playoffs. One thing, too, you didn't mention here of this whole scenario is the Big 12 has already said that Baylor would be the conference's representative since they beat TCU head-to-head if they finish with the same records. Well, Baylor has the country's worst non-conference record in terms of strength of schedule. The country's worst. Digest that for a second. That's going to matter to the committee. So right now they have TCU at 4, but if the Big 12 says Baylor is their designated representative, is the committee going to look at it and say, you guys want us to take Baylor, but Baylor's non-conference schedule is so pathetically weak, we're not really high on them. Hey, Ohio State's sitting there. I could easily see a 12-1 Ohio State team who plays a conference championship game, vaulting an 11-1 Baylor team who's supposed to be the Big 12's designated representative, who doesn't play a conference championship game and has the country's weakest non-conference schedule. I think if the Buckeyes went out, and this other thing too, it's November, and people are all of a sudden imagining, oh, this is how it's going to play out. When every year there are always crazy upsets you never see coming to completely blow up the landscape of college football. Just win out and you're going to be into the playoffs, period.
I'm with you. Just win, baby. Finish 12-1. The Buckeyes will find a way to get in. I don't care if they're the number 4 seed. I do think they're going to sneak in if they go 12-1. Only 4 more games to go. We're almost there. Switching gears on the recruiting front, if you don't know the name Brandon Bowen, it's time to get familiar with the young man. He's a 3-star offensive tackle from Draper, Utah, who was committed to the Utah Utes until last night when he announced on Twitter that he was decommitting. We're hearing he could give a verbal commitment to Ohio State sometime very soon. We'll have full coverage on the site. If he does, in fact, choose the Buckeyes, Bowen would give the Buckeyes 21 commitments in their 2015 recruiting class, and it would be the 3rd offensive lineman in the class, joining Kevin Fetter from New Jersey and Grant Schmidt from South Dakota. Bax, they're really turning over every leaf trying to find O-linemen this year, and I like it. I also like that these are all big guys, even for O-line standards. Bowen is 6'7", 330 pounds. Fetter is 6'9", 305, and Schmidt is 6'6", 275. All of them, quote-unquote, only have 3-star rankings, but I trust the evaluations of Ohio State's coaching staff. It's pretty rare because we're used to having a couple 4-star offensive linemen in the class, and usually at least 1 or 2 of them is from Ohio. These guys are all 3-star kids from out of state, but I think all of them are good prospects. Your thoughts on Bowen possibly becoming a Buckeye, Bax?
Well, I don't think it's possibly. I think it's almost certainly that he's a Buckeye. He only took one other official visit other than home state Utah, and that was here to Ohio State 2 weeks ago. So to me, this is a foregone conclusion, and he wanted to treat Utah respectfully by decommitting and then waiting a week or 2 and then committing to Ohio State versus just flat out flipping on him. He's a very, very good prospect. And here's the other thing that's very odd about this year. not only are none of these kids from Ohio that we have on the O-line in this class, none of them are from the Midwest. You got a kid from South Dakota, a kid from New Jersey, which I guess technically is Big Ten country.
That's right. That's Big Ten country.
That's right, Big Ten country. But by the way, Fitter is as good of a prospect as you're going to see in terms of raw ability. I know Dwayne raves about him on the board, but these kids right now, they're 3-star, whatever. Whenever you look down into the line 2-3 years when they're actually going to be playing, if Ed Warner's still here and developing those kids, if Mickey Mariotti gets his hands on the physical frames that these guys have, and they get up to speed in college football, they're going to be very, very good players. I mean, look at the line we have right now. Pat Elflein was a 3-star player. Jacoby Bourne was a 3-star player. And they weren't high 3-star players either. They were pretty low 3-star players coming out of high school. Now they're starting an offensive line that turned out to be very, very good. We saw the same thing last year, too, with some of the guys who started. I mean, Corey Lindley was a 3-star kid, So there's a lot. I don't get too heavy into offensive line star ratings because we've seen too many 5-star O-line flop and too many 3-star O-linemen get to college and just put on a completely different level of weight and develop into star players. So he's a very good pickup. I mean, you're talking 6'6", 6'7" in terms of height. There's a lot of raw material to work with there. When you have a master molder like Ed Warner around, it's a very good thing. Let's just hope we can hold on to him as long as we can.
Master molder is right. I mean, Ed Warner took a tight end and Reed Fragel, made him a good right tackle. Took Darrell Baldwin, who was a defensive lineman and a backup offensive lineman, has made him a good right tackle. So, yeah, I'm convinced Ed Warner can take these 3 kids and make them into outstanding offensive linemen. The question is, as you said, Bax, will Ed Warner still be at Ohio State when these kids are, sophomores, juniors, and seniors? Hopefully he will be. The thing about Coach Warner, as great as an offensive line coach as he is, I don't see him being a good head coach just with his personality. But then again, he's so good, I don't know if Ohio State can keep him around just as an offensive line coach. I know he has the title of co-offensive coordinator. I get that. So maybe that's something that can keep him around, having that fancy title.
That has to be it, Dave. Because Tom Herman, I think everybody thinks he's the most likely coach to leave. If Tom Herman ends up leaving, then I think Warner's going to continue to get a little more say in the play calling. That may keep him in Columbus for another year or two. Unless a school like Kansas reaches out to get him, I think they hold him for a couple more years. But he's been a hot prospect. He's interviewed for jobs before, too. Don't forget that. Army almost hired him a year ago.
Yeah, that's right. He already interviewed for the job. Army did not get it. Was not offered the job, but was one of the finalists for that position. And I do think Ed Warner will probably get a shot one day. I don't know. I hope he's at Ohio State for a while, and I don't really see his personality translating to being a good head coach, but we'll see. Great stuff out of the People's Champ, Matt Baxendale. Thank you to all the listeners out there. I want to let you know tonight after practice, we will interview Urban Meyer as usual on Wednesdays. We'll also interview several players, so look for stories, bolts, videos, and what Coach Meyer and the players have to say. If you're not a subscriber, try our 30-day free trial. It's a great time to make sure Bucknuts has everything you want in an Ohio State site. It takes you all the way through the Big Ten championship game, so try our 30-day free trial. Thanks again to Matt Baxendale, the People's Champ. Thanks to all the listeners out there. Take it away, best damn band in the land.